So, well, just to going back a little bit to your columns on the National Jeweler, and then there was one that I really loved. It was about the first your journey towards sustainability, but also the last one when you said that the storytelling was important for jewelers, right?
Yes.
And then your story also is you came from art, and you moved to jewelry, right? So
Yes.
how was that transition for you?
Well, it actually, I feel like it was a really natural transition, because I feel like jewelry is art. It's just a different type of art. So it's just a different type of medium that you're using. It's another form of expression. So it wasn't, I didn't consider it that difficult. Of course, it's a totally different world, and it's in the sense of the people involved, and the medium that you are selling is completely different. But I went from selling paintings and sculpture to to miniature sculptures.
Yeah.
So so I didn't think it was that big of a difference. And I had been, even when I was in New York and I was working in fine art, I had jewelry on the brain, I
Yeah.
I wanted to make jewelry, and it's something that I pursued on the side even when I was there. So when I did finally jump into it full time, it was a very natural transition, and it felt so right. It felt like, okay, this is where I should be.
Nice, nice. And yeah, it's art that you wear, right? And it has a
Yes,
meaning, a personal
yes.
meaning. And well, I'm not an expert in art at all, but I do know that it's
Those
like
people aren't.
it expresses emotions and stories, right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
so so how do you see that happen in jewelry in terms of the stories that you can tell with the jewelry?
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like every piece of jewelry has a story. And it doesn't, and I'm not just, I mean, I deal with fine jewelry, but it doesn't have to be fine jewelry. The reason it has a story is because jewelry is purchased because it's something that, especially fine jewelry, because it's something that is loved,
Uh-huh.
because the person goes, oh God, there's just something about that piece. I absolutely love it. Most of the times it's bought to celebrate milestones in
Hmm.
people's lives. So it's, an engagement, a marriage, I don't know, the celebration of an anniversary, a baby, or
Yeah,
whatever.
even a
And a
graduation. We have that too.
graduation, yeah, I mean, you name it, people buy jewelry, right? Or a job promotion. um, so it already starts with a story,
Mhm.
because the person who's buying it is going in with that intention. So it's already starting with a story, and then what's really beautiful about it is that most of the time jewelry gets passed down.
Okay.
So I feel
Yes.
like to future generations, male or female, um, it gets passed down, and that's where the next part of the story really begins.
That's so interesting. And people talk about the jewelry. So
Oh,
it's like, yeah, that's a really nice necklace. Yes, of course, it was my grandmother's, and yeah, and also,
oh,
I mean, we want people to tell like, oh yes, of course, and the gold was mined by, sustainable miners, for example, something like that.
exactly. And so right there, you're adding another element
Hmm.
onto the storytelling.
Of course.
So say you say you've got a brand new piece that's been fabricated. Right there, you're adding on. If you I mean, I think it would be amazing to be able to tell the story, the real story of where did this piece come from. Not just, oh yeah, I bought it in the store because I'm getting married, or oh yeah, I had a designer design it for me for my engagement, or that's all great. But what about if you could really trace it all the way back to, this is the miner who
Yes.
mined my gold.
Yes.
This is their family. This is this is the region that it came from. That would just be incredible. And I think I mean, jewelry is so personal, and people, love it so much. And it doesn't have to be something super ornate, or it can just be a simple band. It's it's special for you. It's very special to the person who's wearing it. But what if you could tell the story about where did this really come? You can have like a little, lineage line or whatever that
Yeah,
talks about where this really came from, and the lives that you impacted because you purchased this simple gold band.
exactly.
That's incredible.
So you said people will love that, and you work one-on-one with your clients, and your designs have been mainly tailored. And But do you see that happening as a trend from the consumers? Sustainability, ethical, responsible gold.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think it really starts with education.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like there are a lot of consumers out there who are educated about the fact that this is a possibility, but then there are others who are not. Um, they have no idea that there's anything having to do with sustainability in jewelry. It's just people just don't know. It's not a criticism. It's just
Yeah.
they know they don't know. So I think I think that I think it's the designer's job to educate. I think it's the jewelry industry's job to educate, to let people know that this is indeed a possibility. But it's something that a consumer has to ask for if the designer isn't doing it already. It's something that the more people ask for it, the more it'll become mainstream. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely see it becoming a trend. I think it is a trend already. I don't think that people have gone as far as to tell the full story
Hmm.
of where, because I just don't think that that's available. That it's just not available. The material isn't available.
Yes.
I, for one, would love to do that, but I have no idea
Well,
who's who's minded. But I would love to know.
yeah, and actually, well, we facilitate that, to be honest, because one of the sourcing models, it's like the gold needs to be separated from uh, uh, the rest of the gold, and during the supply chain, so it's traceable. And yeah, I was talking with a designer. He was in the UK, I believe, and then he said like, yeah, people they ask about sustainability, and the main thing I was able to offer is recycled. But
Mhm.
then also the recycled situation is that, I mean, it's okay, it's a good point to start, but recycled, it could still be mined from an illegal mine, for example. We don't know. And also,
Exactly.
we've seen that after a couple of weeks um, of the gold being mined, it could uh, become part of a recycled supply chain. So,
Yes.
yeah, and I mean, recycle, it's something that brands see accessible. But what do you think about that? I mean, recycled, but also gold from artisanal miners. What do you think?
Well, I prefer the artisanal miner for sure. I mean, I that I think that's a much better route for so many different reasons. I think about the human element of
Yes.
it, and so yes, of course, I recycled gold is fine, of course, and I would much rather do that. But the thing is that most jewelers use recycled gold.
Hmm.
Um, whether they're smelting it themselves or they're taking it to a refinery, I mean, they're using it. It's kind of a common practice now. The authentication, et cetera, that's a whole different story. But I would much rather have access to the gold from artisanal miners, which I know that you can do. But at the same time too, I think it's just a matter of um, it's a matter of organization, I think, for designers. And it's so easy
Hmm.
to just to just go and get the recycled gold or whatever. That's such an easy thing
Yeah,
to do. Whereas doing the fair mine gold is a little bit more it's a little bit more complicated. But I think that just with proper education, I think that it could be
of
easy
course.
to access, and it definitely is a much better thing to do.
So now, how do you think the brands should adapt to the sustainability trend with this holiday season upon us? That is going to be a weird holiday season, right? With everything that happened this year.
Well, I think that this is actually a perfect time
Mhm.
for brands to really focus on sustainability, because you have a consumer right now that is kind of beaten down, to be
Mhm.
honest, with everything that's been going on. So this is actually, and people are really, they're really talking about the environment, for especially out here in California, with we're looking at all these crazy wildfires um, and all the natural disasters that have been happening. And so I actually think that this is a really good time for designers to really, really implement sustainable practices in their jewelry, because people are aware and they're thinking about it. And with the holiday seasons, you have a huge, a lot of marketing goes
Of
into
course.
marketing jewelry around the holidays, because it's the biggest sales opportunity for jewelry. So it's a perfect time to
Yes.
really market that. And I've I'm planning my marketing for the holidays, and I know that it's something that that's, well, it's always something that I include, but now it's, I'm really thinking about how to really implement it as well and get the message out. But I also think too, not just about the sustainability, but more about the human factor that I mentioned before. um, well, especially here in the U.S. with the Black Lives Matter. I mean, people are really thinking about this human factor, and how people are treated, and how some people are not treated well. Um, and I think that this is a perfect way to talk about, you're really making a difference in minors' lives. You're helping communities. You're helping families. You're helping people, give other people an opportunity to make their lives better. And just being aware of that human element, I think, it's balancing the sustainability with the human as well.
Absolutely.
And and just really seeing the impact that you can make by doing something very small. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not that you have to, you don't even have to buy like a huge expensive diamond or piece of jewelry, or it's the small things. But I think that also something that, by making consumers aware of this,
Yes.
going back to what we were talking about before, where it becomes part of the story. I think that, they could talk, they could say, oh yeah, I got this because I'm getting engaged, but it's also sustainably sourced. The gold is sustainably sourced, and I saw pictures of da da da, the miner who sourced it. So it's like you're really taking this to a different level, and I almost guarantee people would talk about
Of course.
when they're telling that story. I mean, I really don't see why they wouldn't. Um, and then that brings awareness. That's how you spread the word. So then that brings awareness to other people who never may not even know that even exists.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah. So I think that this is a perfect time to be doing this.